The young German boy had finally received his first uniform, but there was someone else's name stitched onto the collar. So Paul returned it, thinking it must belong to another soldier. The quartermaster simply removed the name tag and handed it back. Paul didn't think much of it. What he never noticed was the pile of old name tags lying under the table. The truth was, this uniform had belonged to a soldier who had died only days earlier. After every death, the uniforms and boots were collected and sent back. The blood was cleaned off, torn fabric was stitched, and the name tags were removed. But with so much work to do, they sometimes forgot to take the tags off. The same uniforms were then handed to new German recruits. Paul was thrilled. He quickly put on the uniform and proudly joined the others. Full of excitement, the young soldiers marched toward the battlefield. But their happiness didn't last long. Soon, French shells started raining down on their unit. Paul immediately put on his gas mask. The soldiers had barely reached the trenches when they found them filled with water and had to empty their helmets first. That same night, Paul was assigned to guard duty. Suddenly, a flare lit up the sky and heavy enemy shelling began. He rushed into a dugout and hid there, shaking with fear and regretting his decision to join the army. By the next morning, he had somehow survived. The trenches were covered with dead bodies. As Paul collected the fallen soldiers' dog tags, he finally realized who had worn his uniform before him. 3 years later, Paul had become an experienced soldier. Bullets and explosions no longer frightened him the way they once had. The German troops pushed into the enemy trenches, and Paul even found their headquarters, where he ate French food for the first time. Then, without warning, the tables started shaking. Even the rats began running in panic. Something felt wrong, so Paul stepped outside. What he saw left him speechless. A massive iron tank was rolling straight toward them. Bullets couldn't stop it. The tank crushed everything in its path and launched a terrifying attack on the German soldiers. Paul sat frozen inside the trench as the machine rolled over their defenses. The German lines collapsed, and the soldiers were forced to retreat. Eventually, Germany signed the ceasefire. Paul believed he would finally return home. But just before the fighting officially ended, an officer ordered one last attack just to protect his own honor. By then, Paul was completely broken inside. Without any emotion left, he charged toward the enemy. He never made it back to Germany, and just like 3 years earlier, the name tag from his uniform was placed onto the uniform of another young recruit.